Blocking. Blocking is the key to winning offensive football. The key that opens the door to this. And good blocking derives from this. Offensive linemen seldom get the credit due them, but their personal satisfaction lies in knowing that they are a part of the successful whole. Football is a Spartan game, a game of sacrifice and self-denial. Good offensive line play is based on good stance, explosive start, body control, correct hitting, position on contact, a forceful delivery of a blow, and the follow-through. When the offensive line comes off the ball, it must come off not like the keys of a typewriter, but as one man. Uniformity in line play is an absolute necessity. No man can adopt a substitute technique, even though he may sometimes be successful with it. There is only one right way to execute each block, the correct way. And now let us analyze the offensive line blocks. The offensive football stance, from which all offensive movement stems, is with the feet spread just slightly outside the width of the shoulders, with the right foot staggered and the right-handed stance with the toe of the right foot to the heel of the left foot, with the right hand down, with the weight evenly distributed on the tripod of the fingers and the 2 feet, with the right arm just inside the knee of the right leg. The buttocks slightly higher than the shoulders, and the shoulders square. Sometimes it is a little bit difficult to get the shoulders square. A good teaching point is to drop the left arm in the same position as the right arm until the shoulders are exactly square, and then to lift the left arm and keep it just about even with the knee, which will keep the shoulders square again. Both heels are off the ground slightly, with the right heel slightly more higher than the left heel, and from this position that the football player uncoils. The basic block in offensive football is the drive block. The essentials of the drive block are the approach, the delivery of a blow, and the follow-through. This is how each of these essentials is accomplished. In the approach, the player drives off his rear foot over his front foot and aims his head right at the chin of his opponent, striking a blow with his head. As a defensive player, and he takes the man in the direction of his angle. If the defensive man moves off to his left, he pinches him on his left shoulder with the head and the shoulder. Come back again. This time we'll show you the defensive man go in the opposite direction. Same basic approach. Drive off the rear foot, over the front foot, aiming the head at the chin, striking a blow with the forehead. Right? The defensive man comes this way, he catches him and pinches him between neck and shoulder, driving him down the line. Another phase in the offensive block is the speed of getting from this position to this position. The faster he can get there, the easier it will be to control the defensive man. Once he makes the contact, and this is one of the reasons we have so many blocking failures, is the lack of follow-through, the lack of the continuation of the block. So he not only approaches, makes the contact, and most important is the follow-through with the quick driving steps of the feet, with the feet still kept in the width of they are originally. So, right, that's it, that's the way, real good. The purpose of the drive blocker, centering his head upon his opponent and driving with that head, is that if the defensive man makes a quick move in either direction, the blocker can get a piece of him with either shoulder. As the offensive man drives out, he aims his head for his opponent's chin. By the time he has crossed the line of scrimmage, however, that chin will not be there because the defensive player will naturally rise. What the blocker will see is the numbers, and he drives into those. In other words, this is what the drive blocker will see: the chin, and then the numbers as his target. Remember, however, that if the blocker's explosive charge exceeds his ability to control his body, he becomes too extended, making it easy for his opponent to discard or control him. Therefore, the blocker's charge must be a continuous drive, powered and sustained by the piston action of his legs. Oh, that's perfect. That's real good position. You cannot drive a man if he is lower than you are. You must be lower and achieve that balance between body control and explosive charge. As he drives his head into his opponent, the blocker's back is straight, and he brings up his forearms and shoulders to broaden his base of contact. As he starts to drive that man, the blocker will be able to tell from the defensive man's pressure the direction in which that man wants to go. He takes him in that direction, always keeping in mind his own blocking assignment and the hold to which the ball carrier is running. He sustains that drive until the whistle blows. Watch the right offensive tackle execute the drive block. Exploding off the snap, making contact with his head, bringing the forearms and shoulders into it, keeping his legs under him and moving, driving his man out, and opening the hole for the runner. Now here are two drive blocks I want you to watch carefully. Here's one. Here's the other. Did you notice anything unusual? Let's look at those again as an official would see them. Pushing. Holding. You saw earlier how a clean block can open the way for a long gain, maybe a touchdown. You have just seen two ways in which a long gain, a touchdown, a game possibly, can be lost. Now here is a drive block that was not only perfectly executed, but was also the key to a touchdown that won the National Football League championship with 16 seconds left to play. In this instance, because of the importance and the drama of the game, the right guard who threw the block was singled out and rightly celebrated. But what of the center to his left and the offensive tackle to his right and the rest of that line? They all came off that ball together. Each did his own job, whatever it was, unseen and uncelebrated. A lineman seldom finds his name in headlines. I know, for I was one myself. The band seldom play for him. But when he does his job, he knows it. The second of the essential line blocks is the cutoff block, used to prevent pursuit. The blocker makes his first step in the direction of the man he is assigned to block. He pushes off the rear foot and drives over the front foot. He throws his arms, shoulders, and head beyond the far leg of the opponent. He goes to all fours and keeps moving in a crab-like motion. Here in a game, the right tackle will execute the cutoff block and prevent pursuit. Notice that his arms, shoulders, and head are in front of the defensive man. Now let us discuss a block where the defensive man is to the inside of the blocker. We call this the down block. In the down block, again as in the drive block, the blocker takes his first step with his near foot. That is, foot closest to the man he is going to block. It is a short step, and he aims his head at the crotch of his opponent. He must aim at the crotch if he is to keep his head in front and prevent penetration. He makes his contact with the far shoulder. If the defender tries to ease out, the blocker continues to scramble, and sometimes this will work into a reverse body block. Still another type of block is the pinch block, sometimes referred to as a post and drive block, or the double team block, usually used to drive a defensive man back off the line of scrimmage and usually in power short yardage plays. In this illustration of the pinch block, the postman, that is the drive man, will be the guard, number 64. And the pinch man, the down blocker, will be the tackle, number 75. In the pinch block, it is the postman's responsibility to nullify the defensive man's charge and prevent his penetration. The postman moves out with a short step of the foot closest to his drive man. The head is aimed at the midsection of the defensive man, and the postman's objective is to break the charge of that man. He must never permit the defensive man to penetrate between the pinch man and himself. The pinch man's first step is with the foot closest to the postman, because he is also concerned with preventing the defender from coming between the postman and himself. His second objective is not to allow the defensive man to roll out of the block. And now he executes the down block. To sum up, postman, short step, head aimed at the midsection of the defensive man, breaking his charge. Pinch man, down block into the side of the defensive man. One of the most important techniques that all interior linemen must master is the technique of pulling on traps and sweeps. Guards and tackles must be able to pull with power, speed, and precision. The beginning movement in the pull is the basic and most important part. It consists of two parts. One, the snap of the lead arm. The arm on the side to which the pulling lineman is going should snap back, with the elbow close to the body. Two, the direction of the lead step. The direction or the positioning of the lead foot is determined by whether the pull is long or short. For the short pull, used on trap players, the blocker's first step is a quick jab step, with the eyelets or eyes of the shoe of the lead foot looking down a line of scrimmage where he wants to go. It is important for the pulling blocker to immediately shift his weight onto that lead foot, or he will rise up too high as he takes off. As he approaches his objective, the trap blocker must remember, one, he must not launch his block too soon. In fact, he should be close enough to his opponent so that he is almost stepping on his toes. Two, just before he reaches his man, he makes a small dip. Three, then he drives through that man. If he does not move that man, the play will be piled up. The technique is the same for all interior linemen, whether they play to the right or to the left of the center. Here we see a left guard pulling for the trap, driving out low, launching his block and moving his man. For the long, deep, or bellied pull used in the sweep, the first step is almost an about face, away from the line of scrimmage. As with the trap block, when pulling, both of these actions, the snap of the lead arm and the lead step, must be made as one motion. The second step is normal in length, and the blocker takes off running low and hard and pumping his arms. He bellies his pull to a depth of 4 or 5 yards, and wheeling into the hole, he moves upfield toward his assignment. Here in a game, watch the guard number 64 as he pulls to the right, bellies his pull, and heads upfield to hit his target. A very effective block used by the guards and the center is referred to as the fold block, in which the center blocks back in either direction, and the guard folds behind that block for the middle linebacker. It's usually used in power type of plays up through the middle. Observe how the fold blocker takes a delaying step, allowing the center to pass in front. And then his technique is the same as that of a drive blocker. Here in the game, watch as the center, number 57, takes the defensive tackle on his right, as the guard, number 64, folds behind him. The runner follows the guard into and through the hole for a good gain. In illustrating the doodad, or the area block as it sometimes is called, we will talk about just the offensive center, the offensive left guard in this case, the offensive tackle, and the halfback. The guard and the center doodad, or area block, the defensive tackle, and the middle linebacker. As I mentioned before, it is used against stunting lines, or lines who stack one man behind the other. In this case, with the defensive tackle with an inside charge and the middle linebacker, who is keying the fullback and has outside responsibility and will move immediately to this hole, making it impossible for the center to cut him down because of his key. We will use Doodad blocking. The center is the lead blocker, the apex. He will lead step, the same technique as the down block, for the crotch of the defensive tackle. The offensive guard, using the same technique as he does in the drive block, will aim for a point which is the outside hip of the defensive tackle. If the defensive tackle has an inside charge, the guard immediately releases, picking the middle linebacker who would be moving with the key of the fullback. The center, since the guard is moving into him, would pick him off. If the defensive tackle had an outside charge, which means that the middle linebacker would have first responsibility to the inside. He still has the key of the fullback, that is true, but the fact that he has inside responsibility would hold him long enough so that the center could recover and pick him. The worst that could happen with an outside charge and inside responsibility, if the center could not recover, and he cannot always recover, is to have a double team on the defensive tackle, driving this man back, the one man back, cutting off the pursuit of the middle linebacker. Observe now that the defensive tackle in white will take an inside charge. As he does, the offensive guard driving out goes past him and picks up the middle linebacker. The center picks up the defensive tackle. From another angle, you'll see the same thing. Another illustration of the doodad is the doodad between the offensive tackle and the offensive halfback against the defensive end and the linebacker. Same principle. Outside charge by the defensive end, inside responsibility by the linebacker. Inside responsibility by the defensive end, outside responsibility by the linebacker. These two men doodad these two men. The inside man, again, is the apex. He leads steps for the crotch of the defensive two-man or the defensive end. If the defensive end goes to the outside, if he disappears, in other words, the tackle off his lead step would immediately look for the three-man who usually will have inside responsibility on that particular deal between these two men. If the defensive tackle came to the inside, the tackle would pick him, releasing the offensive halfback who would now pick the outside linebacker. The halfback leads for the outside hip of the two-man. If the two-man disappears to the inside, he takes the linebacker. If the two-man came out into him, he would take the two-man, leaving the linebacker for the offensive tackle. Here in a game, you'll see the doodad between the offensive left tackle and the halfback working against the defensive right end and the right linebacker. Note the offensive tackle, 76, drive blocking the defensive end. Now note that the halfback, 22, leading the ball carrier, goes for the outside linebacker. Here you see how effective a doodad can be, allowing the back to go wide and then cut upfield. Doodad blocking can be used any place on the offensive line with any two offensive linemen. Offensive tackle and end, offensive tackle and guard against any combination of defenses stacked or dealing. Up to now, we have not discussed the tight end or Y end. The tight end is first a blocker, second a receiver, and third a runner. In other words, he must be able to execute all the blocks of the interior lineman as well as catch the ball and run with it. And one of his most important blocks is the one required in the power sweep. We asked the YN in blocking for the sweep to split 6 to 9 feet from the tackle in order to isolate the defender, who usually is playing over him. He takes his regular three-point stance, and his rule is, on a snap, the set is on a pass. That's the same exact technique as a lineman would use, and to drive the man over in the direction that that man wants to go to. Coach approaching point. Never allow penetration to the inside. Because of that, his weight must be on the inside of his foot, his eyes on the numbers, and he's got to be ready at all times to drive the man down the line if he tries to penetrate. Same technique. The weight's still on the inside, and the usual rush is the man going to the outside. Now we ask him to drop his outside foot, keep his eyes on the numbers, and not to make his move until the man is even with him. In other words, his numbers are beyond his eyes. When the numbers are beyond the eyes, he wheels them out. And this, of course, is where good blocking begins. It begins with the proper stance. The lineman driving off the ball as one man and hitting as one man. The proper angle of approach, the proper follow-through. It's stance, approach, hit, and follow-through. And they must come off as one man. One player coming off late will permit penetration. So they must all come off the ball together, as we practice over and over again in this fire hose drill, until they are all one single driving unit. It takes a special kind of man to play on the offensive line. He must have the determination and the mental discipline to constantly practice the various blocks. He must be dedicated to perfection and recognize that perfection can only be achieved through the drudgery of practice. There are no shortcuts to success in football, and the individual who tries to find them will lose his way. At the level on which we teach up here, we are dealing with players who have behind them 6, 8, 10, 12 or more years in the game. And yet we find, when we analyze why the performance of an individual or a team declines, that it declines because of a breakdown in fundamentals. Each day, each player, all pro or rookie, must discipline himself mentally and devote himself physically to fundamentals. Only then will his actions become automatic, his excellence instinctive, as it must be for the offensive lineman called upon in a split part of a second to initiate those blocks we have discussed and demonstrated here. This is a trap play. Now watch in slow motion the blocks that spring the runner. There are 2 down blocks. And there's the trap block. There's the crackback block. And that's what good blocking can do for a runner and for a team. Crackback block, the pass, these are the building stones of all offensive line play. Blocking is 90% of offensive football. And it's blocking like this and this that results in this.